Alright, I'm back, and as you can see I have the two heat sinks laid out in front of me. This one is completely wired except for the leads that will be running out to the back of the tank, and then the one that will be connecting over to the next heat sink. But this is basically the difference between wired and not wired, and I'll zoom in. It's actually pretty hectic, but as you can see, it gets pretty hectic out on the sides because I run all the wires out to the sides. But you can actually, with these heat sinks, what I did is I basically organized the wires, and if one was popping out too much, I'd solder another wire over it that'd be close to LED. For example, this wire right here was popping out, so I soldered this wire right here over it, and so it keeps everything down. And then with all the I made the wires a little bit looser so I could tuck it into the bottom here in the bottom corner, and then up top here. So there's a couple wires that stick out a little bit. I might touch those up a little bit and organize them, but other than that I'm pretty happy with what it looks like. I did have a problem with a couple of LEDs. We had one of the warm whites, so this guy and this guy. This one over here actually went out, and so I switched it with an LED on this heatsink over here. And then one of my UVs is only working like half power. So I'm gonna once I finish wiring up the next heatsink, I'm gonna test all the LEDs on that one and see what I need to get replaced. And so LED Group Buy, they basically said, yeah, just contact us, let us know what LEDs you need, and they'll get those out to me. So right now there's two. There's one I think it's one hyper violet and then one warm white. So I'm gonna have to replace this one right here. And then both of these warm whites worked, but the one over here on this heat sink does not work at all. Does not turn on when I test it at all. So I'm gonna start wiring up this guy. I'll start the video again when I'm about halfway done, just to show you what it looks like between the LEDs. But because it does look like a mess here, but that's basically what it looks like wired. And the wiring, I just do the same thing I did with the Fuge heatsink. Just take the solder, or take the tip down the solder with the wire. It's nice to use some tweezers. I have some tweezers here, and just get as good of a joint as I can possible. And again, sometimes I have to use some extra solder, so I just use the solder I've been using. This is actually my last tube I have, so I'm hoping I don't need any more than this. But if I need some extra solder before I screw up, I just suck it up and throw some extra solder on it, and it works pretty good. So that's about it. And I'm going to start working on the other heat sink, and I'll start the video up again. Alright, so I did a little bit of soldering. I just wanted to show you an example of a couple channels that are all soldered up now. The one with the long wires, which you can see the most on that fixture, these are my moonlights, and it's from negative, comes around, it's tucked down in here, comes up, crosses over to positive, and then this one, negative, comes up over to the positive, and then this negative coming down back under over to this positive, and the negative will go out, and the positive comes in from the other fixture. And then as you can see, I'll zoom in a little bit more. You can see the small wires that I used, and those are the most tedious, I guess, because you gotta use the tweezers. But this is one of my blue channels. These four right here surrounding the amber are all blue LEDs, and so it goes from negative to positive, negative down to positive, and negative over to positive. And then I'll have my negative coming out, tucked in, out to the amplifiers, and the positive up here will come from the heat sink. So that's the difference between the channels. So there's some that are really long, like the moonlights and the green LEDs and all the other colored LEDs, plus the warm whites. and then there's some that are really close, like the UV down, and some of the other royal blues. So that's what the wiring looks like basically. And I'm going to finish it up, and then I'll show you both of the fixtures.